starters. Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game, he will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Weijio Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top three, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium at a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top 3, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. As for South Korea, well, the big news for them is that Heung-min Son, the Tottenham star, is fit enough to start this game. He will be wearing a face mask. There's also a place up front for Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang as he leads the line. There's World Cup Group H action at the Education City Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. start as Uruguay take on South Korea. Uruguay are making their 14th appearance at the major tournament. As for South Korea, it's outing number 11 for them. Team news for this one then, and for Uruguay, their all-time top scorer Luis Suarez is part of a top 3, which includes Darwin Nunez and Facundo Pellistri. Well, it's a very warm welcome along to our unofficial off-tube studio commentary of this World Cup encounter then. It's Group H and it's Uruguay taking on South Korea. It should be an interesting game. There's been plenty of shocks already in this World Cup in Qatar, most notably Saudi Arabia beating Argentina. So what else can we find? Obviously Japan beating Germany yesterday as well. And South Korea managed to pick up a surprise victory against Uruguay today. Have to wait and see what happens. The big team news then for South Korea's perspective is that Heung-min Son, well, he starts. He will be wearing a face mask after the operation that he had, picking up that injury on the eve of the World Cup. And also they have their Olympiacos striker Wee-Jo Wang leading the line for them. As for Uruguay, a familiar face up front, the number 9 Luis Suarez, the country's all-time record goal scorer. And you've got the country's all-time appearance holder as well, and Diego Godin adding another one to his tally. And so we're underway for this first half. Then the Korea are in their red kit with the little sort of black trim around it. They're going from left to right in this opening 45 minutes. Uruguay in their normal blue kit with the white trim in the opposite direction. This game taking place at the Education City Stadium, and an early corner kick opportunity here for South Korea is get the first look at Son with his black face mask on. What can you do from this corner? I'll run you through the 2 starting 11s after we've seen the set piece through. It's James Mason and Cameron Pope next to me that have you for the entirety of this game. What they do from here then? Really the tallest team of South Korea to see what they can do from the set piece. Then Son puts his left arm up, then delivers this one right-footed outswing delivery towards an near post. It's flicked up into the air. Keeper comes and, well, sort of punches it slightly up into the air, then gathers it at the second attempt. Sergio Rocher then in goal for Uruguay. Matias Oliveira, Jose Gimenez, Diego Godin, and Martin Caceres, the 35-year-old, as the back four. Rodrigo Bentancur, Matthias Vecino, and Federico Valverde in the midfield 3, with Darwin Nunez, Luis Suarez, and Facundo Pellistri as a top 3. As for South Korea, they go with the Kim Sung-gyu in goal. Then it's a Jinsu Kim, Kim Young-kwon, Min-jae Kim, and Kim Moon Hwang as a back 4. Jung Woo-young and Hwang In Biom as a midfield holding duo, with Song Hyun-bin, Jae Sung-lee, and Nar Sang-ho playing behind Wee-Jo Wang as he's leading the line by himself. 2.5 minutes gone. South Korea made a bright start to this game. I mean, can you see any hope for them to get a victory? I mentioned before, obviously Japan have had a win, Saudi Arabia have had a win. It's been a strange old World Cup.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I think we certainly can. I don't think anyone needs reminding of some of the calibers of shocks we've had so far. Saudi Arabia, of course, the one everybody's talking about, undoing one of the favourites for the tournament. And we've seen in every single World Cup, not a single one of these editions, the 22 we've had, has gone by without one of the hosts being shocked at some point. Just look at the European Championships we've seen in recent years as well, and how many big teams end up on the wrong side or the unpredicted side of the tournament tree. And so South Korea, certainly not the biggest underdogs in the running here. They're in a group where they can probably expect to have a few, I think, balanced games across the 3 they're going to face. And so they'll be aiming for the top spot. Of course, they won't be thinking about sneaking in. And so they have to go into this believing they can win. And I, for one, looking at the Premier League quality they have within their ranks, of course, they're led by Heung-min Son, I believe they can.
Yeah, no, they look as if they've got a chance. There's not a whole lot of goals spread out around this South Korea squad. Of course, you've got Son Heung-min, 35 goals, and then the next nearest is their striker Wee-Jo Wang, who's got 16 from his 50 appearances. His 50th cap has come up today in this game. If you look a little bit further through the squad, and it's Kwon Chang-hoon, who's got 12 goals from 42 caps. So you don't spread them around. If Son doesn't score, if Wee-Jo Wang doesn't score, then they do struggle a little bit. But suppose that's why you have your main man, his career coming forward down this left side. The ball is just a little bit overhit, but a bit of defensive work to do here as the ball is just chipped down the line then by Bentenko, just come across then to help out his defence. Bento then the South Korea coach. We're hoping that they can get something from this game. Of course, Portugal-Ghana is the other match taking place later on today, 7 p.m. And it's a difficult group when you look at it. All those teams, you say, have got a chance of beating one or the other, and interesting to see what transpires from this game. We've nearly had 5 minutes gone, ball up towards halfway from Uruguay, and South Korea will pick up possession again. It's not gone the way I thought it would go to start this one. I thought Uruguay would see more possession, but it's South Korea that have had the bulk of it.
That's the way you have to go, isn't it? You look at the example of Canada last night taking on another of the favourites for the tournament, Belgium, and I think we have to class Uruguay in that sort of bracket, perhaps not leading the betting stakes, but certainly in that uppermost class. And Canada took the game to them, and okay, it didn't work out in the right manner for John Herdman's men. In the end, they ran them close and they dominated for much of the first half. They play front foot football against these sides, giving themselves the best chance. You just have to make sure you're defensively sound enough to deal with the counter.
Yeah, Uruguay, of course, the big sort of game to look forward to at the end of this Group H. Their third and final match is against Ghana, of course. There was all the controversy with Luis Suarez's deliberate handball on the line, and Ghana missed the resulting penalty. Then they knocked them out, didn't they, in that game? So, you'd probably say it'd be fitting if Ghana knocked Uruguay out of the tournament in that last match. But it's funny how things come around in football and give teams the opportunity to get a bit of revenge.
Well, it'll be revenge 12 years in the making. It's had a chance to mature in the barrel over that time, really, hasn't it? But, we've been more about that as well. It's always hard to look at these teams and I think what they can offer so many years down the line. The reality is, different generations of players have moved on, managers have moved on, playing styles have developed too. And so, okay, that's a nice tale for fans, and it might give you a little bit more fire in the belly than it would normally going into a matchup like that. But really, it's a tactical outfit, trying to outmatch to another tactical outfit. And I think that could be interesting as well in the context of the South Koreans. You look at Paulo Bento, Portuguese by birth, played for the Portuguese national team. He'll have been putting a few feelers out in the lead up to this. He'll know what the other side are about. He's got games to prepare for. He knows now what his opponents will bring to the table, and so I think this is one of perhaps the most level playing fields we've got in this World Cup.
Yeah, no, would agree with that. As the ball's played down the right-hand side, giving chase to this one then is the 17 then in Na Sang-ho, and he did initially well, and the ball's just clear behind though, having to come across and knock that one out was Oliveira, and I'll tell you what, South Korea got themselves another corner. Made a very bright start to this game. The Uruguay boss today, we mentioned Paulo Bento, but Diego Alonso is the man in charge of Uruguay. Hasn't got the most sort of prestigious CV. He was at Inter Miami for a couple of years, and then he got the Uruguay job. So still, you feel learning the trade a little bit, but he's 47 years of age. But South Korea do with this corner. It was a disappointing one from this side in the early couple of minutes when it didn't really beat the first man. I've seen a few of those already in this tournament where they try and whip it towards the near post, but I'm all in favour just getting one in there, allowing somebody to try and attack it or just cause a few issues further into the box. But Diego Godin then just seeing him marshalling someone a couple of yards off his goal line. Some know who will put the ball down and up for options again. The left arm goes into the air, steps up, right-footed, delivers it again towards the near post. It's a poor one, but it's sort of skewed away. South Korea should pick up possession again, which they do. It's on this left-hand side with Jungwoo Young, and the block that comes in out for a throw on that left-hand side. Has Song got a sort of cast on his arm as well? Has he got something on his hand there? I know he's got the facial injury, but I've just seen it looked as if he had sort of a blue sort of fitting on his arm.
I think he does. It's hard to look much further than the superhero-esque mask that he's wearing, but you can certainly see now. In fact, he's just gone over to shake hands with him. You can see on his left arm, his left hand, there's definitely something there, and so whether he's walking wounded in two senses, we don't know. The fact was, I don't think he was going to walk over hell and high water to get into this starting 11 today.
Yeah, indeed. As they're coming forward down the right, South Korea ball into the box is a good one there from Kim Moon Hwan, and Uruguay again just managed to get their heads to it first. They are usually a good defensive outfit at Uruguay. They're hard to break down. See what they can do here as they try and have a counter-attack on the left-hand side. It's with Darwin Nunez, the Liverpool man, but he's marshalled well then by Moon Hwang, the right back, just kicks it out of play. Opportunity for Uruguay now, maybe just to get some sort of attacking momentum going, because they've not got close to South Korea's penalty area so far in this opening just over 9 minutes. What can Oliveira do now from this throw? Maybe try and launch one a bit further into the box with the height of Nunez, but he goes short just down the line. Gets it back from Vecino then. Now an inside pass as Uruguay trying to work their way around South Korea, but it's an easy clearance away. It's broken down, and now South Korea got a chance then as a ball is sprung down this right-hand side, giving chase then is Hwang, but that's a good covering defence then. Number 3, Godin, puts it out for a throw, but yeah, Uruguay just haven't really settled yet, and I think South Korea will be happy with the start they've made. They just want to try and take advantage of the early pressure.
It's an edgy first 10 minutes for Uruguay, really. You can just see there Godin taking no options, taking no chances, just thundering that ball out into touch. You do wonder there whether normally he might have taken a couple of steps and tried to play a ball over the line, taking the sting out of it a little bit. But I think they look a little bit rocked in the first few minutes. We've seen a lot of possession, a lot of territory for South Korea too.
Yeah, I've just realised what that blue fitting was, and it was the captain's armband for Son had fallen down his arm, which is why I think he was holding it in his hand when he took the corner before.
To be fair, it's a massive armband. It's about the size of 2 armbands. That probably could keep you afloat if you wore it in water. It was that big. No wonder it's ended up round his wrist. But I was thinking you hadn't heard about a wrist injury or anything like that. If he'd been, I don't know, shadow boxing in the warm-up camp, something like that. He's got a picture of Diego Godin up on a punch bag that he's been going over. But no, nothing of the sort.
No, not indeed. Yeah, that could probably fit around both of my arms. That captain's armband there is going to be goalkeeper Sergio Rocher then to take this free kick just outside his own penalty area. 9th cap that he's earned today. He's been given the nod then. So you got Fernando Muslera, 133 caps, plays a trade for Galatasaray now. And also Sebastian Sosa, who's only got 1 cap for Uruguay. Both of those are 36 years of age. So Sergio Rocher, national shot stopper, certainly one I think that the faith has been entrusted in for the next few years anyway. You'd feel for Uruguay. A throw up to halfway by South Korea, headed out of play this time by 15 Valverde, I think, came across there. So it will be a throw it again for South Korea. We said positive start to this game so far for South Korea. Just have a throw with the man down the line. He launches it down the line straight towards the head though of Gimenez, but it's straight out of play as well. So it's like territory in rugby union here. South Korea are just slowly working their way down that right touch line, midway through Uruguay's half, but throw it back inside their own half now with Min Jae Kim. Then just flicks one back inside towards the centre-back partner then in Kim Young-Gwon towards halfway where Woo Young has it out towards the left-hand side. Now an opportunity for Son to have a little run forward here. Immediately though he's faced up by 1, 2, 3 Uruguay players. He gets the ball away towards his left-back then in Shin-Soo Kim, but it's going to flick off the left-back in the end. It will be a throw into Uruguay, but they've spotted the danger straight away. I mean, they know that Son Heung-min is the main man, but straight away when he gets it, he was eventually tracked by 3 players coming across. And I have to say, that's not the greatest challenge for Martin Caceres.
No, I mean, first things first, it's testament to his great ability and to his reputation that he's been trebled up on. But no, I think you're quite right, Martin Caceres, a man of his experience at 35 years old, knows you can't lead with the shoulder in a tackle. But referee from France let that one go. Maybe it's just a sign of what's to come for him.
Yeah, maybe a chance here for Uruguay though, as the ball is broken too. The little chip ball into the penalty area. An attempted flick header then from that was Palestri there actually came across. Just couldn't quite get on the end of it. And it's into the arms of the goalkeeper. It was Matthias Vecino actually who broke forward into the box. But, I mean, that was almost something out of nothing for Uruguay, and it would have been a defensive error from South Korea.
Well, credit to the Koreans there. That's what they've limited Uruguay to, and it was a good little run from Vecino from midfield. He's tried to get himself into the opportune area of the field. All he could do really was glance it towards Kim Sung-gyu. That's all that Uruguay have managed so far, and really again we've seen the familiar pattern of play emerging once more. The right back Koreans just keeping the ball among themselves and looking for that space to exploit on the flanks, bring it to their key man Son. I don't think they can be, we run the risk of the commentators curse here, of course, but I don't think they can be much happier with the way a 0-0 has unfolded after 13 minutes.
Yeah, they're certainly on top. South Korea, and they're coming forward again down that left-hand side. A little glance in field there, good little step of the feet, and there's a Yujo Hwang then. There's now a little dink ball forward towards the penalty area is easily cleared away. Now a ball up towards halfway, and it's a mistake at the back. And now Uruguay again have got a chance for a quick counter. It's with Suarez. Suarez then plays it inside, and loads of room here for them to try and come forward with Vecino. Vecino then just plays it square, slightly behind Valverde. Does a good first touch, but Korea managed to get numbers back. Now plenty of red shirts in their defensive structure. Uruguay possession midway through Korea's half, but it's a bit of a standstill now. It's with Gimenez, who's just over halfway. Now he's striding forward, out towards the left. Sort of bobbles a pass out towards Oliveira. Oliveira then under no pressure, but just goes back down the line to Gimenez once more. And got to give credit to Korea there. I mean, Uruguay, they looked as if they had a chance for a kick counter, but do they have that pace in their side that Korea are going to be scared of?
Everyone talks about Uruguay as being one of the great sides that's never really made too much of an impact at a World Cup. And that shows now in the fact that some of the key players are so old. And you know, Diego Alonso has done his best to invest in new talent and bring in some younger lads as well. You see a lot of lads looking at the first few caps for this side. They've got one uncapped lad as well, haven't they? Jose Luis Rodriguez. But you're looking at the backbone of it. Martin Cáceres, he's 35 years old. Diego Godin, he's 36. You've got even Vecino in midfield, is 31. Luis Suarez, 35. Cavani, 35. You think now with these aging legs, do they have that little zip off the mark? And that's what the Koreans seem to bring to the table as well. All fighting fit. They look like they could run all day, whereas Uruguay, I know it's only the opening salvos, but it's just taking them a little bit longer to crank through the gears. It doesn't look fluid, it doesn't look natural.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with Uruguay in terms of got some sort of aging players, maybe towards the back end of the careers, and then you look at Diego Alonso as well, the head coach, and you know, before the World Cup squad was announced, you look at the recent call-ups that they've had, and I mean, there's been so many call-ups as if he's thought, I'm going to try this person, I need to try this person, I need to try this person. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there's 10 forwards that had a recent call-up to Uruguay's squad who are not involved in this one. You've got another, 11 midfielders, probably around 13 defenders. The goalkeepers, there's been 6 other goalkeepers included in there. It's smacked at not really having an idea of what your squad is.
Well, maybe now the thought is looking at the North American World Cup that's to come in 4 years. Those players who are edging towards the end of their careers will probably be out the door, at least internationally.
There's the attempted crossing from the left-hand side here by South Korea. Is that taking a flick off? Uruguayan defender, I don't think it has. Will be a goal kick.
I wonder if it had gone out first before it was tipped over by the goalkeeper. A big swing there from the boot of Kim Jin-soo. That first touch on his left boot, it let him down, and by the time he's recovered his steps, he's bent it way out behind the dead ball line. It's hard to tell from the TV angle for the assistant. An easy call, and one that Rocher, he wasn't taking any chances, just tapping that ball onto the roof of his net, but I think he already knew what was going to come.
So, right, with a little bit of possession they have as they come forward. Of course, the sort of starting 11 is not bad for Uruguay, is it? You look at who they've got in. There is one, the Real Madrid man. Got Rodrigo Bentancur for Tottenham Hotspur. Matthias Vecino, he's 31 though, so he's maybe not got too many more years left in on the international stage. I mean, Lucas Torreira, he's in the squad as well. I mean, he's such a good player for Arsenal. I think he just got homesick, or he didn't like playing over in England, but plies his trade over in Galatasaray at the moment. As 17.5 minutes gone, still goalless between Uruguay and South Korea. South Korea classified as the away team when you look at the teams as they're laid out, but they're coming forward now, ball over halfway. There's a fair challenge that comes in. It's felt by Hyun-Min Song, who's down on the floor at the moment. It's actually Na Sang-ho, and he's got back to his feet, but he's just hobbling around as South Korea do have possession back as the red shirts continue to flurry forward. Now out to the right, a little bit of space here for Kim Moon-hwan as he tries to put a ball in, hits the backside of the Uruguayan defender. Oh, dearie me. And then there was a really good chance to whip a ball in, but they decided to try and play it down the line. Moon-hwan had stopped his run, and it goes behind for a goal kick.
No, poor ball there, really. It was just taking too long, and then Hwan In-beom, he took the wrong call. He could have bent that ball into a dangerous position. He tried to fizz it down the line. His teammate wasn't singing from the same hymn sheet. It was a breakdown in communication. And the thing is, okay, South Korea, they've had plenty of the ball. They've had it in good areas of the pitch. We're still waiting for some proper golden chances to come their way. They're not going to get too many opportunities to do that. And so I think if you've got the chance to put a ball into the box, I know you're up against some formidable centre halves there, tall men in terms of Godin and Jimenez. you've got to go try those times. You're not going to get the ball in the fringes of the attacking third every time with men in the centre, red shirts all around. It was the wrong option, and I think the reaction of his coach not to touchline so.
Yeah, Uruguay now with the long ball forward then, and there's a shot that came in, and it was Federico Valverde with a great first touch to bring it down in the area, and then the snap effort with his left foot, and he's appealing for a corner, which I think it may have been awarded. That was just a long ball over the top of the defence, straight down the middle, so from South Korea, that's disappointing.
That's gone from defence to attack in a moment of seconds for Uruguay, and it is disappointing for Korea that they allowed the blue shirts straight through the middle of them, but take nothing away from the control from Valverde there. That's why he's such a weapon in this team. It was one touch stick down in his instep, and already he's thinking about the finish before the ball's even hit the ground. It was excellent play, and he's unlucky not to be closer.
Yeah, no corner actually. Just the defender came across, got a toe to it. Actually, the defender getting a toe to it sort of popped the ball up, and then there was the volley from Valverde, which took it over the bar. So yeah, right decision from the officials. As Uruguay now just trying to come forward again, ball down the right side looking for Suarez, and across there was Kim Young-Gwon to knock the ball out of play. The strong defender has been able to get involved in the game really so far. 35 years of age, so he's not going to be running the channels all the time for you. I think he's going to have to try and preserve his energy, and I think for Uruguay, it's some of their better players are in that sort of mid-30 categories. It's whether they can play all these games in such a short period of time, in 90 minutes on all of them. I'm just not sure if they'll be able to now as they try to get a ball back into the penalty area. It's hooked away clear, thrown to Uruguay on this left-hand side. But yeah, playing 90 minutes, if you want to go deep in the tournament, every match, you don't think someone like Suarez, you maybe don't think someone like Godin's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, you do wonder about just the number of 30-somethings that they've got in this side now, and especially with the amount of added time playing too. You know, you're looking at 2 hours.
And the heat as well, the conditions.
That's it. I mean, you think as well, you know, you wonder how it's not just European teams that's going to affect. Okay, Uruguay and South Korea are both a long way away from home. Okay, they might be slightly warmer countries than some of the European nations competing, but it's a completely different climate, and it is a shock to the systems that have to play in this, you can imagine. And so how you battle it, I think it is going to favour the younger squads. They've all got bigger squads now, 26 versus 23. That's another factor that's going to come into play later on in the knockout stages for sure.
Yeah, so just see Jung Woo-young diving into a challenge there, and it was sort of an open scissor challenge. He gets away with it really. I mean, Bento's furious, but it wasn't a good challenge, and it was a free kick, rightly so, as Uruguay come forward. Now ball into the penalty area, and not a down ball. Oh, Darwin Nunez misses that one, and still another chance as it's pulled back across the 6-yard box, and that one's cleared away. Oh, what an opportunity for Darwin Nunez to open the scoring for Uruguay again. It's a long ball downfield. It's a good diagonal pass, but South Korea getting caught out by these. It's a lovely headed pass back across into the penalty area. Oh, Nunez has to finish that. That's such a good chance for the Liverpool man there. He should have done better. He's led with the right foot. I don't know how he's missed it. He's actually got there ahead of the defender as well. The goal was at his mercy. All he has to do is divert it ever so slightly to the side of Kim Sung-gyu. And he does neither. He doesn't make contact. Yeah, I mean, this will be a worry for South Korea, is that Uruguay now maybe just sort of looked at this and thought, let's just play some decent balls into the channels, you know, let's go diagonal over the top, and it's worked a few times now for Uruguay as South Korea got penalised for a foul throw there, I think it was. So Uruguay have possession back on the halfway line now. It's with Godin. Godin comes to Caceres. He's, I mean, 35 years of age, he's not been ran at yet. That was the only thing I would say from a South Korea perspective, is they've not looked at getting at the right back, and you know, Hyunmin Song down that left-hand side as well looks like a sort of a mismatch when you think of that. I wonder now, as we've spoken already about how fitness will play out coming later into the tournament, perhaps later in matches too. You know, we'll have to look to the Uruguay bench, and I'm sure that they'll be very fast on the changes. Diego Alonso's outfit, you know, they can't afford to have tiring legs out there, where the Koreans look the fitter of the two already. I wonder if the gap might just start to grow. That might explain the lack of urgency, say, from the Koreans so far. But when Uruguay have come forward and gone route one, it has tended to be quite effective for them. Yeah, we've just seen Cavalli on the bench as well for Uruguay, experienced player, has an eye for goal. Uruguay have possession back, but we've gone past the midway point of this first half, just over 23 minutes gone. It's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Cameron will take you through the half time. We say they've gone past the halfway point. We haven't had the 12 minutes of injury time factored in yet. So there's not been many stoppages yet, has there? No, there hasn't. Uruguay edging their way forward, having grown into the match somewhat after a sluggish start, still waiting
South Korea's first major chance. The first one of the match was spurned just a few short moments ago by Darwin Núñez for Uruguay. A glorious cross from the right-hand side that evaded the Liverpool man right in front of the goal of Kim Seung-gyu. So Uruguay in possession on halfway. Jimenez controlled by Oliver. His fist forward towards the edge of the penalty area. Quick turn in midfield is right under the nose of the referee, and so a free kick awarded to Fede Valverde by Clement Turpin. South Korean midfield will half protest their innocence, but I don't think that Jung Woo-young could have much complaint there. The arm quite clearly across the back, and it's a free kick to Uruguay in quite a promising position.
Yeah, dangerous. It's just sort of left of centre, isn't it? So the angle's not great, but it's just signs in the last sort of 10 minutes, that Uruguay are really grown into the game now. They're getting a foothold, and South Korea, after the bright start, and maybe just sort of taking a little bit of a breather and just inviting a bit of pressure on, which could be to their downfall.
So here's Valverde, hands on hips, his celeste-coloured shirt, just a one-man wall for South Korea. It's chipped in deep towards the back post. Hard to say who got the first header. Referee thinks it's a corner. And the look on the head of Jimenez makes me think that perhaps thinks he should have had a play at goal there. He rose well along with Matthias Vecino. It's a defensive header that got there and takes it away from the corner. So, another chance for Uruguay to press on ahead early on in this game. I think it was Jung Woo-young who got the final touch. And so, Fede Valverde stands over it, far side the Uruguay right. The assistant tells him to hurry up. It's Ben, out swinger, over the blue-shirted heads. Cleared away by South Korea. It will be picked up a long way from goal now by Qatar. Brings it back into the heart of defence. Jimenez goes long. It's taken down well by Darwin Núñez. Jinking in turn and tries to fizz it forward. It hits the defender. South Korea will hurriedly clear. It's a route one ball, but it might be effective. And the masked Son is flying forward. There's calls for offside from Cáceres, but he's got defending to do. Son cuts inside him, gets past the second defender, crosses towards the front post. The header there from Oliveira was good enough to head out for a throw-in. Averts the danger for now, possibly only delaying it. After 26 minutes and a good bit of play from Heung-min Son, it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that sort of matchup before, didn't I? Son against Cáceres, and I mean, he's just got him on toast, hasn't he? There, Son. He gets the ball, he faces up against him. It's only just a little step over, and there's just a leg left out there by the Uruguayan right back, and I mean, any sort of better contact or bigger contact, and Son could have gone down, get a free kick, and get his man yellow carded. But it's definitely somewhere I think that South Korea will be looking at trying to exploit. It's just getting the ball into that channel.
You call for a tussle between those two, the two leading lights of either side. But here we go. South Korea have won it back on an errant ball, 35 yards out from goal. And as soon as I said that, it's pinched back by the South Americans, and they're away over halfway. And there's options opening up for Oliveira. He chooses left. He chooses Núñez. The goalkeeper gets there with a stray hand. It wasn't a great pass. It was ahead of the Liverpool man, and the yellow-clad Kim Seung-gyu comes flying out of his goal, a bundle of arms and legs to tap that ball clear. It was the first time he's really been called into action there. He saw Darwin Núñez pass up a glorious opportunity from a cross around 10 minutes ago. Well, this time there was no such look. He had to make sure his presence was felt. Not that just in the nick of time, it remains goalless.
Yeah, he was quick off his line there, was Kim Seung-gyu, but I have to say that the pass from Oliveira was awful. He does so well initially to win the ball back inside midway through his own half, and then he's driving forward with such pace, but he's going forward so quickly. You just want to say to him, just breathe, just take a split second and just think about the pass. It's not a hard pass because South Korea is so exposed to the back, they're so central, and Núñez has got acres of space. He's just got to slip that one into the penalty area and allow Núñez to get a first-time shot away, but it's way over hit. Again, solid goalkeeping then from the Korean shot stopper, but I mean, that should have been an easier chance for Núñez.
Piastri is penalised for his foul on Kim Jin-soo. That's South Korean left back position. South Korea had really overcommitted going forward. There were gaping holes at the back. We're just seeing a rerun of the chance. It was a really poor ball not into the feet of Darwin Núñez. So it's Oliveira. Held his head in his hands. He knew exactly what he'd done. He showed far too much to the goalkeeper, who still had to come out and bravely make the save. But It's always interesting what we say bravely for a goalkeeper. That is his actual job, to come and throw himself out and to take the ball off a defender's toes. But it's hard to describe it as anything else. He's throwing himself almost headfirst at the feet of Darwin Núñez, who's running at a good, probably solid 20 miles an hour. I wouldn't want to put my head in there, and the goalkeeper managed to get there in good enough time to get off, clear out, and send South Korea on the way.
Yeah, your head, your hands, you're going to take some knocks as a goalkeeper throughout your career, aren't you? And of course, we moan that they get a bit too much protection when high balls go into the box, and a little nudge, and it's seen as a free kick all the time. But yeah, they always say that you've got to be a little bit crazy to be a goalkeeper, and you can see why sometimes.
Never trust a pretty goalkeeper, that's what my old man told me. 29 minutes gone, Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Long ball forward from deep has spun out from the boots of Kim Moon-Hwan, almost on the full, so it will be a Uruguay throw in. No score at either end.
I won't ask you what you think of the two goalkeepers then.
Not my cup of tea is all I can say.
I won't say if you trust these two goalkeepers or not, then it'll give something away.
Well, so far, to be fair, they've held fast, although neither really has been tested too far. We'll have to see if there's any more questions asked of them in the rest of this first half. Only 15 and a half minutes remaining. Still plenty of time, though, for the status quo to change. And change it might now. South Korea have come forward and asked a couple of questions at the back of Rodrigo Bentancur. So the Koreans take the quick throw in the corner. Kim Moon-Hwan trying to find his way through. It's back to Kim from a 1-2. There's a 1-2 with Jung. Uruguay doing a good job of forcing the red shirts of South Korea further away from goal. So far, in fact, they're forced back into their own territory with Kim Min-jae. To his namesake, Kim Young-Won. Same namesake. There's actually 5 Kims playing for South Korea. I was reading before the game, 21% of the population of Korea Republic has the surname Kim, so I guess it's not unlikely that this was going to happen. It just so happens that these are the 5 defenders involved, the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper. So I wouldn't say it was the easiest setup for a commentator. I remember doing the Faroe Islands in a friendly about 18 months ago, or maybe a Nations League game. There were 5 Olsens. 5 Olsens and I think 2 Hansens playing for them. I've read of a few similar situations with Nguyens in the Vietnamese team in the Asian Cup. I saw one commentator lamenting his woes in that one.
Just a percentage play, just say Olsen, and then you've got a chance of it being one of the 6.
That's it. Although I've seen in England as well that there was a recent, I won't say where, but there was a recent publicity about a well-known pub chain offering free drink to anyone who shared a surname with a member of the England and Wales squad. And there's a namesake of Nick Pope. I was very happy to hear that. I guess you can manage that when there's 50 different surnames across the 2 squads. I don't think you would get maybe you probably...
To get one for the first name, I'm Mason Mount. So.
You see, maybe. It's to be seen. Korea, he's up to about 20% of the population. Korea come forward now with a spinning cross out towards the back stick where Na Sang-ho was arriving, but Su's ball won't reach him. It was far over his head. That's about to trickle out for Uruguay throw in. So 32 minutes gone. The Korea fans in full voice at Education City Stadium. No score still. Plenty of colour. Very few goal-worthy chances. Uruguay have come the closest twice to Darwin Núñez. First, failing to get onto the end of a pedestrian cross right along that fabled corridor of uncertainty. Second, he was let down by a lacking pass from Matthias Oliveira, who came streaking through. I think the Koreans were overcommitted on the way forward. It's Korea in possession now. Jung back to Kim Young-Won, right on that centre mark. Jung once again goes back to the furthest flying red shirt of Kim Min-jae. Down the line towards Na. He's kept alive in front of Paulo Bento's technical area. Force himself back inside his own half to keep possession. So Kim Min-jae out to Kim Jin-soo. Kim looks for an option further forward. Could have used Son on the left-hand side, or perhaps Jung Woo-jung wants to go back conservatively himself. And now the long ball comes forward. Now it's Kim Jin-soo up by the corner flag up against Cáceres. Gets a cross in as well. It's headed clear by Facundo Piastri. Korea will keep that ball in. 35 yards now on the edge of the penalty area, but they'll keep that ball moving. do seem the fitter. We've said that, myself and James, at various points during the 33 minutes that we've had. Most of the running, but haven't managed to fashion any credible chances so far. Long ball forward down towards Kim Moon Hwan. Down the right-hand side, near side as Korea look at it. Up towards the corner of the area. Back it's cut to Jung. Here's the way through. Kim Moon Hwan again, fizzed across, and Hwang can't get his head over it. Underneath the ball, scoops it over the crossbar, and I'm sure there'll be a massive sigh of relief for Sergio Rocher there. The Korean fans will applaud. That's their first real sight of goal after 34 minutes. It was played down the right-hand channel into a promising position, fizzed by Kim Moon Hwan, and right underneath it. That was the chance for their main man up front, Hwang Wee-jo, and he couldn't take his chance. Wedged himself underneath the ball. It flies over the crossbar. It remains, James Mason, Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Yeah, it shouldn't be though. That should be 1-0 to South Korea. It was lovely, patient play. I was just thinking to myself, South Korea, it's maybe not favouring how this game's going, because I think they're better on the counter to using the bit of pace they have and trying to catch Uruguay out. But I'll tell you what, they were patient there. They were passing the ball around. There was some lovely switches of play. And they just worked it so well, They invited the pressure on then from Uruguay when they tried to nip in and win the ball. They were getting it away, little 1-2s. I mean, that is just on a plate for Wee-jo Hwang. It really, really is. It's a great ball in for Moon Hwan, isn't it? The right back. And if he hits the target, he scores there. But he has to at least hit the target. I mean, it's not a difficult chance. It is fizzed into him, but it has to be fizzed in, because otherwise he's going to be, the defence is going to be able to get in there and challenge him. But that should be 1-0 to South Korea. That's their best move so far.
Has to do better. Still goalless. 35 gone. Uruguay coming forward once again in the centre circle with Fede Valverde. Nothing on in the shirts of the Albi Celeste, so he goes back inside his own half. Godin, the elder statesman, the edge of the centre circle, inside his own territory. More across. Uruguay have to just bide their time. Weathered the storm in the last few minutes. Twice champions. Their first two showings at football's long-lasting global spectacle. Really come close to that since then. The best they managed was their 2010 semi-final place after seeing off Ghana, group opponents in Group H at the quarter-final stage. Out in the quarter-finals again in 2018. Round of 16 between those two. Brazil, it's been a long old time. Qualifying in 2006. They managed to reach a knockout from 1990 for another 20 years, and so modern times haven't been too kind to the Albi Celeste. A risky decision to get rid of their long-time coach, Oscar Tabares, midway through the CONMEBOL qualification cycle. Went out all right in the end. Diego Alonso, big boots to fill, but all of them he did, and through the third best placed CONMEBOL side into this World Cup. Still goalless in this one. Finally poised against South Korea. You haven't missed much. Regaling you a bit of Uruguayan football history. The ball has been passed along that back four from Oliveira to Godin to Jimenez to Cáceres, and largely back again. It's now with Godin with the orange boots. Interesting choice from a man of his vintage. I would have thought that after you get past 30 and maybe a centenary of caps, you just migrate to the classic black. That's how I would have thought it would work.
Well, holding on to his youth, isn't he? Or trying to hold on to his youth, which is well gone.
Maybe it's a psychological thing to the Koreans saying, I've still got life in my legs. That's why I dress them up in these this glitzy footwear. Either way, Uruguay have now progressed into the Uruguay half, and as I say that, they're in danger of encroaching back into their own again. And as soon as I have said that, of course, it goes back to Godin. Out to the left-hand side, and it probably should have stayed with Godin. He goes short to Oliveira, who rushes his pass. And back goes Jimenez trying to find Oliveira with a loose ball. It goes straight out in front of Alonso's technical area. And both managers showing their frustration in different ways. A rather mute Diego Alonso, and Palavento is anything but mute. He's out in his tracksuit and white trainers, fingers and hands out, moving in a diagram that only his players can understand. He speaks much Korean, I'm sure he does. It's a difficult language to master. It might be an English job, but several of his players do play in European leagues. A smattering of Greek talent. Wang Yinbom and Wang Weizhou both playing at Olympiacos. Of course, Song Kyung-min and Hwang Hee-chan also in his squad of Wolverhampton Wanderers. You've got Lee Kang-yin at Mallorca. Kim and Jay plays his football at Napoli. There's a couple in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar as well. German-based players, a lot still playing domestically too. It's Uruguay, a real mix of talent from Europe and back home and over in Asia as well. 6.5 minutes of normal time remaining in this first half. Korea on the offensive. Kim Moon-hwan tries a long-range effort, always rising. Never really brought it down in time. Had a lot of dipping to do, and there's almost a ceremonial jump from Sergio Rocher as he just makes sure. In fact, it was Hwang Yinbom who took the shot. Way to split right under it, just like his namesake Wang Weizhou a few moments ago, from albeit much closer in. So the Koreans starting to have a few pot shots, starting to at least wake the opposing goalkeeper from his slumber, but it remains steadfastly 0-0 in this one.
Yeah, it was. I think that was maybe just a little bit of frustration as they're coming forward again.
Here they come again, right on the edge of the area. Lee into the penalty area, tries to twist it back. Godin gets a foot to the ball, it bobbles up into the 18-yard box. Fede Valverde is going to take it upon himself to go a long way around. He's back towards his own corner flag, up against Jung. Cuts it back into the penalty area where Jimenez will clear. South Korea trying to bring this ball back under control, which they have done with Kim Moon-hwan on the right-hand side, halfway inside Uruguay territory. Testing times for the Uruguayans, and the move breaks down when it gets to Narsanjao, and I think Oliveira might have put the final touch just to earn the South Americans some respite there, because Korea were coming forward with a vengeance and have a throw-in for their troubles, and they're well supported down to right down to the touchline behind the technical areas of both managers. The throw-in is an abomination almost as it comes short. In fact, I think Korea were hoping, well, maybe it did take a little touch from Uruguay. I wondered if
opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post. Break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area, whilst the biggest chance came for Godin as his header hit the base of the post from a corner. At the break, it is Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. Half-time in this Group H encounter, and it's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. South Korea have actually seen the bulk of possession, and they've created themselves one opportunity. It was a ball in from the right-hand side and unmarked in the box was Weizhou Huang, but he scooped over from around 8 yards away. He should have scored, but for Uruguay, they've had a few chances, even though they've not seen much of possession. Nunez has spurned a couple of opportunities. Valverde volleyed over from inside the area. Well, it's a very warm welcome back to our unofficial off-tube studio commentary of this World Cup Group H encounter. Uruguay 0, South Korea 0 at the break then. And South Korea, well, they did see more possession in that first half, but didn't really create a lot with it. They had the one opportunity, which fell for Weizhou Huang, the Olympiacos striker. And he scooped it over the bar when it was unmarked inside the penalty area. As for Uruguay, for the sort of lower possession they had, they did create themselves some chances, a couple for Darwin Nunez, Valverde as well. And the closest they came was Godin heading against the base of the post from a corner. It's interesting to see what both sides, how they approach this second half. Korea in their all red, going from right to left now in the second 45. Uruguay in their blue shirts with black shorts and the black socks in the opposite direction. It doesn't look like there's been any changes made by either manager for this second half. So it's as you were, Sergio Rocher in goal then for Uruguay. Matthias Oliveira at left back, Jose Jimenez and Diego Godin in the centre-half positions with Martin Caceres as the right back, and then it's Rodrigo Bentancur, Matthias Vecino and Federico Valverde as a midfield three, with Darwin Nunez, Luis Suarez and Facundo Pelistri as a top three. As for South Korea, it's Kim Seung-gyu in goal, then a back four of Jin-Soo Kim, Kim Young-gwon, Min Jae-kim and Kim Moon-hwan. And it's Jung Woo-young and Hwang In-byom as a midfield holding duo, with Son Heung-min, Jae Sung Lee and Na Sang Ho playing behind Wee Jo Hwang. James Mason, myself, and Cameron Pope with you again for this second half. What do you think both managers have said to their players at the break?
Thanks, James. I do wonder now what Paulo Bento's side can go and do. The Koreans, whether maybe they've shown what they've got to offer too early, and whether they have the capacity to take it up a level. I think he would have been telling his charges to go out there and target the weaklings at the back. You know that the likes of Martin Cáceres and Diego Godin might just be flagging towards the end of the 90 minutes. That's a long time for 35, 36-year-olds to keep playing against the likes of Heung-min Son and the tricky Na Sang Ho. That's probably going to be their best outlet. They're going to struggle in the air against these players. It has to be down the flanks. That's where they've had their most joy. As for Uruguay and Diego Alonso, I think he'll be encouraged actually by what he's seen. He's seen his side soak up the pressure well, and when they have gone forward and be direct, I think they've looked quite promising. One thing they do need to be though is more clinical. I think that cutting edge is something that will feature heavily in this halftime team talk.
Yeah, they've got cutting edge on the bench here, don't they? Edinson Cavani mentioned here, but South Korea coming forward. Oh, and there's a rash challenge I thought there from Jose Jimenez on the sort of around the edge of the D, but the referee was happy with the challenge. It's Na Sang Ho who's now just hobbling back to his feet. Interesting to see that one again, because it would have been a free kick in a really dangerous position, but the referee straight away was happy with the challenge from Jimenez. As Uruguay now playing the ball out towards this right-hand side, Godin towards Cáceres, and now he will go back towards his goalkeeper in the Roche. Uruguay will start again. Not sure what your thoughts are on that, Cameron, but it looked like it was touch and go whether he got the ball or not.
I'm going to say I'd like to see a rerun of it in real time. I hope the referee had a better viewpoint than myself and you, James, because I was in the same camp, very much 50-50 over that one. It's probably the referee's worst idea of what might happen in the first few minutes. You want a nice steady rhythm to bed yourself into it. And, we've had a few contentious calls, as is always going to be the case after you've had 12 games so far. It's always going to be the way. 13 in fact counted this morning, so let's just hope that it's decided by the majesty of either side and not by anything contentious.
Yes, Luis Suarez going down asking for a penalty, but I think the flag was up against him anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. Spot kick wasn't given initially, and close, very close, but I think he's probably just offside. But was there a penalty? I think it's one of those where I think Suarez has just slowed himself down ever so slightly when he gets in the box to initiate contact.
Well, he's one of those, isn't he? That's what he does, that Luis Suarez. He's always known the presence of defenders. He knows how to play for a foul. He's got no shame in doing so either. I think he'd readily admit that. So maybe reputation does come into it as well, I wonder. You always have to think. Referees know these players, of course. They do their homework. They know what these players are about. And so if you see a player like Luis Suarez going into a challenge, I think that is likely just human nature to be an element in the decision-making process.
Yeah, just seeing Jung Woo-yo headbutt the back of Jin Soo Kim's head. So a painful one for both players, but they're back on their feet. And nearly 5 minutes gone in the second half, still 0-0. South Korea possession back. So I think South Korea will probably be happy with a point to start off in their World Cup campaign. A run through of Uruguay's sort of World Cup record. South Korea, I mean, although they've not gone massively far, bar 2002 when they got fourth place, but they're coming forward now actually, and Son into the penalty area. What a sliding challenge that is. That is superb. It looks like Son was about to unleash with his right foot, and I feel like it could have been Tinker, his Tottenham teammate, who slid in and just sort of it looked as if he'd gone in too early, and then he just flicked it away with the left foot. I mean, it was a superb sliding challenge.
I think it was Jose Jimenez, but probably more S, just got from the wrong side of the defender, got there early, managed to keep the foot in, wrapped himself around it. It was a proper textbook challenge. Uruguay might need more of that if they're going to start flagging later on in the game, and of course we don't know, the fitness levels could be supreme. But on the way that Korea started the first half and the running that they've done, that does seem to be their game plan. But if you're stacking them like that against the double-pronged attack that Korea have got, then I think you're standing yourself in good stead to go the distance.
11th appearance at the World Cup for South Korea, their 10th straight World Cup as well. They've qualified for every one since 1986, and there was a big gap between 1954 when they made the debut. But fourth place in 2002 is by far their best run in this major competition. Had plenty of group stage exits, unfortunately. He had a round of 16 in 2010. The rest have all failed to make it out of the groups, barring obviously that 0-2 fourth place. As you see the challenge again from Jimenez. Yeah, you're right. It's a brilliant tackle. Looks as if Son's just going to have that half a yard to get a shot away, but Korea got themselves a corner kick now and a chance to whip good delivery in. They didn't have great execution, Son, in the first half with his deliveries from corners. See what he can do this time, though. They've got 5 in the penalty area, South Korea, so they are outnumbered by the amount of blue shirts that are in there, but get free and maybe get something at Sergio Rocher, who's not had to make a save yet in this game. It's been pretty easy work for the Uruguayan shot stopper. Son then with the left arm goes up in the air again, right footed delivers it, and again goes towards the near post. It's headed up towards the goal line. Keeper Rocher punches it away. Not the most convincing there from the keeper, and then a little flick ball down the line for South Korea, and maybe a chance for Kim to get it into the area, but it's just been muscled out of it. And now Uruguay trying to run this ball out from the back, which they do well, but then Bentancur gives it away on the edge of the box. Ooh, and the referee's given this as a free kick to Bentancur. I don't think that was a free kick, but I think the build-up to the foul probably was.
Well, I wonder there if it might have been given retrospectively, because there seems to be a little nibble on Bentancur. He does a little Maradona turn on the edge of the box to get away from danger. Not bad as well, given that he's just taken a shoulder to the face from his own goalkeeper Rocher as well. He certainly has to hope that it's a free kick there, because he's playing very dangerously. He managed to spin away from one battle and then straight into another. So I think he can count himself a lucky man at least. But 53 gone, 0-0.
Yeah, I was just about to say they were checking the penalty shout there for South Korea. The referees just allowed play to get back underway now. So I think it would have been harsh. We've seen some soft penalties given already in this tournament, but I think it's just to try and stop any sort of shirt pulling or sort of rugby tackles in the penalty area. Of course, we were talking at half time saying, well, Harry Maguire's wasn't given for England against Iran, but seemingly after that wasn't given, we've seen a lot of spot kicks for that sort of thing given now in this World Cup. Long ball upfield. As the ball bounces down towards a blue shirt, just on this right-hand side with Caceres. He does well, just sort of toe pokes it down the line. Oh, and there's a late challenge there on Darwin Nunez. And the referee, again, he doesn't like getting his cards out.
No, he's quite happy to manage this one. Clement Turpin, he's allowed it to flow as much as he can, but that was a flying tackle from Jung. And if any tackle we've had so far was worthy of a yellow, I said that one down. Nunez, it's not the full force of that has just come through. It's high, it's late. Okay, you might say that it's still in control, and that might be what saves him, but that's a fair helping of leniency the French referee's giving out.
Yeah, he kind of tries to sort of pull his or stop himself, doesn't he, there when he slides and realises he's not going to get the ball, which I think does save him slightly. A free kick is whipped into the box. It's headed away. Maybe a chance, though, as a shot comes in from the edge of the area, blocked away. And the header is won then by Valverde. Into the penalty area it goes, and giving chase here. On the right-hand side is Pelistri, but then he's dispossessed, and now South Korea try and come forward. There's appeals for that ball going out, and I think it did, so a throw and it will be to Uruguay. That was unlucky there for South Korea, because it was a good chance to have a quick counter-attack, and they got the ball towards Son, who would have maybe had a little go at the Uruguayan defence there.
Well, it's always teetering on that line, and you do wonder whether Luis Suarez get into that position. You have to fear for the South Korean defence. They've stacked up all right so far. Maybe we've seen a slight changing of the guard now. Maybe this is where it starts to turn.
Yeah, throw and taken by Caceres into the box. It's allowed to bounce. Maybe an opportunity, but it's cleared away. And the left foot comes across there from Kim Young-Won up towards halfway, as then Godin just turns on that one, just leathers it forward, high up into the air. Then there's a little flicked header on by Pelistri. Tell you what, he nearly got on the end of his own flicked header there, just too much as it rolls behind for a goal kick. But quite a similar pattern to the first half, really, although maybe Uruguay just seeing a bit more possession than they did in the first 45.
I think South Korea held that ball quite well within the confines of the Uruguay half in the first period. Couldn't do much with it. Maybe we are just starting to see that equilibrium coming back in now. Uruguay, we haven't seen them do too much with it so far, although we've just seen a boot flying off. So I wonder if this might be the moment that Clement Turpin decides he's going to go to his book properly. Heung-min Son is up in a heap on the ground. I think it has to be. They're calling for the yellow card, certainly, aren't they? Caceres is right down the back of his heel, and that's what sent his Celeste-coloured boot flying off. And so there's a bit of concern about Son here now. He's in some serious pain. It's not a tiny challenge by any means.
No, it's not. I mean, the initial contact wasn't bad. He's gone through the back of him, but that's just bit of momentum. We think that's fine, but it's the foot, it's the studs coming down on the side of Son's ankle there, and he is feeling the effects of this one. I'm sure VAR will look at it. See replays of it now. As he comes in, doesn't get the ball, and treads on his foot a little bit there. It's a clumsy challenge more than anything, really, from the Uruguayan defender, and I think he's probably fortunate that this referee has been very lenient. No yellow cards given yet, when he could have maybe given a couple.
Yes, he's really set his bar quite high now, and Martin Cáceres has been the straw that's broken the camel's back, really. He is the first man to go into the book, and I think that really, if that, for me, in my book, I think that Cáceres knows full well that he's got time to pull out of that. If he doesn't go in for that, if he pulls out that challenge, it's all right, but he's actually ripped Son's boot straight off his foot, and if he doesn't get a yellow card for that, then I just wonder where the referee is going to start drawing the line. I think you have to give one eventually for the challenge we've seen coming in, and the thing is, he's set his stall out at such a level that he's had to stick to it.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously, with the time that Son's down getting treatment there, I think VAR probably had a little look at it and maybe just gone in the air. Actually, he might give a yellow here, and then they've done it so quickly, and as if it was just the referee thinking about it, and he just thought, yeah, I'll give a yellow card. It's maybe something like that, because the yellow definitely didn't come out straight away. We didn't see it anyway, and confirmation took a long time to come up on the screens that we have. So, you're probably right that that's the first yellow card. Not how you maybe thought the card would have come his way. You thought it would have been chopping down Son when he was trying to run past him, but nonetheless, the caution is out and back underway though, and Son looks like he's okay. I'm sure he'll just have a little run on his ankle for the next couple of minutes, but he's a tough player, I'm sure. He will continue. 58 nearly and a half minutes gone. So it's still a goalless. Ball downfield and headed inside them by Jinsu Kim, but try and clear their lines, and now it's brought down by Bentancur. Do a little bit of pressure, does well though. Let's play back towards Jimenez. Bentancur again. I just wonder how long it's going to be until the managers change things up, because it's looking a little bit stale. Not trying to have a downer on this game, but everything's being played in the midfield battle at the moment.
It has. We've not been blessed with chances galore, and it's been an interesting, finely poised duel in the midfield third, but there's not been much dueling going on at either end. And so it was just interesting how the last World Cup we went 64 games. We only had 1-0-0. I think we've had 3 so far, if my counting serves me correctly. This one is 2/3 of the way to becoming a 4th. It's not been a thriller, no, and something probably needs to change. Although, looking at this, okay, Portugal and Ghana to come up a piece. It's not a terrible result to share the points here. Essentially, you'd imagine that Portugal would have the measure of these two sides. Not saying definitely. Then it comes down to who does the better against Ghana, and so who are sort of seen, as the outlier in this group. So it doesn't hurt anyone, this 0-0, but we do hope from the neutral perspective that it changes.
Yeah, the lowest ranked side, Ghana, aren't they? 61st, I think it is. The South Korea trying to come forward. The ball is headed away strong though inside the penalty area. But I don't think Ghana are pushovers. They've got an Aki Williams in their side now, and he is a real threat. So interesting to see what they can do. Do you any chance do you know what the 0-0 was from the 2018 World Cup?
It was quite late on in the tournament, wasn't it? It was.
No.
I think. I had it in my head that I'd heard a story of somebody who had opted to go for no 0-0 draws through the 64 or whatever games, and I thought it got quite late. So
I think the bet you're on about is somebody went for 0-0s throughout all the group stage games, and this came with it actually. Because I went through this before. I had the quiz question in the office. It was actually who went on to win the World Cup. France against Denmark was a 0-0.
I wouldn't have called that.
Their last group game, and of course they're paired again in this World Cup 4 years later. So see how they do. Interestingly, the 3 of the teams in that group in 2018 are paired again in this group. Australia in that side in that group as well, with France and Denmark. So. Yeah, it's not been easy for Australia.
No, I think they had a little brief moment of glory, didn't they, taking the opening goal, and then France flexed their muscles a little in the second half. And And it was the result we were probably all expecting, just perhaps not the manner of it. But Denmark can't really afford another 0-0 now, can they? They'll have to take the game to them. I think that'll be one of the exciting ones. France, out of the core favourites so far, obviously we're yet to see Brazil. They are probably the only ones who have performed as you would have expected. Of course, Argentina were way off that. Okay, Portugal still to come, but you've got Belgium, who really toiled to their 1-0 win. Denmark, probably classed in the same bracket as Uruguay, with a draw on opening day as well. So it really is, in many senses, wide open. France are the only ones that have started to perform as you would have expected so far, and no disrespect to the Socceroos, they have only played Australia.
Yeah, no, true. Obviously Spain, but again, that was a really poor Costa Rica side.
But would we count Spain? And interestingly, they were, of course, they thrashed a very off-colour Costa Rica side. Would we count them in that bracket?
Yeah, well,
we have to now, I guess.
I don't think you can't count Spain. I think they've always got that little bit about them. South Korea coming forward, though, edge the penalty area. Son now with it, tries to scoop one into the box. Player goes down. No penalty given, and there wasn't many appeals, I have to say. It's out towards that right-hand side. Play back down the line. Looks as if when the ball next goes out of play or play is stopped, Edinson Cavani will be coming on for Uruguay. His ball into the area, can't be brought down then by Son. It was a difficult one. Now Uruguay trying to run out from the back, and they get a little lucky there. Then the ball is just poked downfield, but that's a really good diagonal ball. And now Nunez then has got around as Mount has fallen over. Nunez into the penalty area, looking for some options, gets to the byline, tries to pull it back, and the keeper get a hands to it. That's a really smart save then by Kim Sung-gyu, but I'm not actually sure if it would have found his teammate in the box anyway for Nunez, but that's the first time he's been able to stretch his legs and run at the Korean defence.
First time he's got the Korean defenders running with their back to goal. It was an interesting tack taken from Luis Suarez, who was in a central berth in the penalty area, then decided to peel away towards the back post. Just wasn't enough power, not nearly enough power from Nunez to reach Suarez at the back post, but still a good save from the goalkeeper Kim Sung-gyu. Just gets the right hand out and then quickly follows up just to make sure no one's following in. But there was a lot to do there for Nunez to reach his man. I wondered if he might have been better going for goal himself, at least. You'd imagine forcing a corner. He's got to take two defenders and the goalkeeper out of the equation there. And his last chance to pick up with Luis Suarez, because Luis Suarez is heading off.
Yeah, no shots on target for Suarez. Covered a bit of distance, 6.5 kilometres. But Edinson Cavani onto the field, a player they mentioned. He's very experienced as the eye for goal. Remember him tied on, obviously, in the Premier League with Manchester United, but 58 goals and 100, which is his 34th cap now. But there's a little bit of a worry here for South Korea, because they've only got a player down on the field of play.
It's Kim Min-jae who's gone down, centre half.
Glad you spotted that number there, because I didn't. Just see again. Oh yeah, so it's Kim Min-jae who came across to try and stop Nunez and fell over. So maybe just tweak something slightly.
I wonder if it might be the ankle. It just completely. His leg. Oh, it's the knee. It's the knee, I think. Oh, that doesn't look good.
He's just, his left foot is just stuck in the turf, and then his knee just sort of jarred. It's a horrible one to look at, but he is walking off, so you'd hope that he is okay, because he's had a good game. I mean, the defence for Korea is done pretty well so far. You know, they're trying to get forward with the full-backs, but they've handled most things that have come their way from Uruguay so far.
They have. They've been equal to the battles. I think he's still trying to. I think he's hoping he can come back on, and this is the point of having a 26-man squad. It's been a long season, long couple of seasons for everyone. Not much break. You know, his Serie A season with Napoli won't have ended too long ago, and so you don't need to risk these players for the final 25 minutes. You saw the likes of Enner Valencia in the opening game. He struggled on a little bit longer, having got those 2 goals. He wants to stay on for his hat-trick, hurt himself, and then eventually have to come off anyway. But you do wonder about the wisdom of these things. And you look back to the Iranian goalkeeper against England, and players are always going to want to carry on. And okay, we're not privy to the discussions in individual cases between players and physios and what the exact physical conditioning is, but if there's any doubt at all, I think that's where you have to just take precaution as the priority in these matches. You've got a big squad, you've got a minimum of 3 games, you want to keep everyone fighting fit for the sake of 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he was just absolutely gone, the Iranian goalkeeper. I mean, covered the game, and I could see was Simon Barlow was doing it with. He was just not there. His legs were given away underneath him. And of course, there was the Harry Kane. He kept playing on and had to have an ankle, a scan on his ankle, didn't he? He said to be fine for the game against the USA tomorrow. Whether he plays the full 90, I have my doubts. 66, just minutes gone. Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. It's not slowed down, but in terms of the flow of the game, just isn't maybe what it was. And just seeing shots of Jai Kim there, who is just gingerly walking around on the halfway line as his throw's taken to Son. But again, he's just swarmed by 3 Uruguayan defenders. It's Caceres on him once more, forces Son to play the ball out, gives the throw back to Uruguay. It must be frustrating for Son, because whenever he gets the ball, he's just got players around him.
He's not had the chance to flex his muscles at all in this game. He's been completely crowded out. And credit to Uruguay. Whether they can keep doing that for the final 24 minutes of the game, that's going to be the interesting thing. I also wonder how it must affect him. That's a really tough one into the face of poor Diego Alonso, who's taken a header square in the chops as it's been cleared out of play. We're going back to Son, and another facial injury, I guess. I wonder how much it affects the professional having to wear that mask. It must. I'm sure that in the days of sports technology that we have in this era, it won't affect your field of vision, but it must be. It's an alien contraption to get used to, and I wonder how at short notice that does feel to play, and if that does affect your performance.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting. I've never played in the face mask, so I'm not sure what it would be like. As forward down the right, Uruguay, but that's a skewed pass out, straight out then. Literally was the intended target. Goes up then from Bentiga to apologise, but South Korea do with this throw. If we're going to see any more changes from Uruguay, whether we're going to see a change from South Korea at some point, it's just what they got in terms of reserves to try and bring on and change things up. He doesn't want to change too many things with the 0-0 at the moment. Finally poised as South Korea then lose possession in the middle of the park, though. They sort of pulled out of the challenge slightly there, did Hwang and Biom, and now Uruguay coming forward down the left corner of the penalty area, left-hand side then with Nunez, plays it back down the line, maybe a chance for the ball to go into the box. It does, it's headed away though, it's not a great delivery. Oh, dearie me. And a long-range shot comes in, which is actually turned out into a pass on this near right-hand side. It's Balistri who is trying to do his best to keep a hold of this one under pressure. Son flicks it out, throw-in will be given to Uruguay, and we're past the midway point of the second half. 68.5 minutes gone, it's 0-0, there's no goals yet. Cameron will take you through the full time.
Thank you, James. Keep your fingers crossed, everybody. Heung-min Son has just argued vociferously with the assistant referee that Uruguay had been given a throw-in, and Cavani's into the penalty area, couldn't get a shot away. It's still alive with Piastri. He knocks it back towards the edge of the 18-yard box. Valverde keeps it moving out to the left-hand side. This is much better from Uruguay. 21.5 minutes remaining. South Korea have used that momentary lull just to get enough red-shirted bodies back. There's now 10 of them and the goalkeeper behind the ball as Uruguay look to come forward again down the left-hand flank. No way through as it stands, so Benton Court stands on it 45 yards out from goal. Moving it steadily with Godin out to the right-hand side. Piastri, can he find his way through? Just the United man to be had, so back to Godin once again. Still South Korea stand behind the ball, still waiting for this first goal at either end. Piastri trying to move himself into the attacking third. He has it pinched off it by Son, wins it back. Paulo Bento will complain. He's about to make a couple of changes. Uruguay still in full swing though. Entering in a moment the final 20 minutes of this Group H opener. Final group to get going in Qatar as Darwin Nunez comes towards the corner, meets Hwang In Bohm and wins a throw in by the corner flag, which will waste no time in taking. Go back away from goal again though towards Fede Valverde. Godin chips it forward into an attacking position. What might come from this one? The cross deep, too deep towards the back post, but taken down majestically on the instep by Piastri. Up against the defender. Can he get it past Kim Joo-sun? He can, but only hits the first defender. Heung-min Son needs no reminder that time is of the essence in terms of a clearance. It's gone all the way upfield and the goalkeeper called into action. It was bouncing in the 18-yard box and Sergio Rocher came out to head clear, and he's done remarkably well there, showed great composure. He's picked his pass and he's found Fede Valverde. Valverde into the centre circle for Bentancur. Uruguay, again, no urgency about them. South Korea also casually moving information to shut off those passing angles for the South Americans as Valverde goes down the left-hand touchline. No way through as it stands, looking to find that killer pass to Oliveira. Instead, it's back towards the centre circle for Jimenez. Now Valverde again, with the bleach streak in his hair, towards Oliveira. He's 30 yards from the corner flag, but again, there's nothing on in the Albi Celeste jersey, so round the long way it comes. Near side the Uruguay right this time. Chance for Payistri to find the cross, but can only go away from goal once more. South Korea doing an excellent job of just repelling the Uruguay attacked. Cáceres down the right hand side towards Payistri once again, up towards the corner flag, gets a cross in, header clear. This will come 40 yards outside the South Korea penalty area. Has to be picked up once more by Jimenez. Gets a dangerous crossing towards the back post. Defensive header drops towards South Korea in the 18-yard box. And well, I say it was an opportune moment to clear. It was planted straight on a blue jersey. Could have gone anywhere. The ball arced up through everyone straight, thankfully for South Korea, into the hands of a grateful Kim Sung-gyu. So we've got 18 minutes left to play. Kim Sung-gyu holds the ball in his hands. No score at either end. What do you think now that South Korea can change if they take this up a level, or is this really, as we feared, all they have?
Oh no, I think you look at the bench and that there's a little bit there in terms of you do look at the players that maybe play in a higher division than some of the others, and you got Freiburg's Jing Won Yong there, who 2 goals from his 9 caps. He's a lively player. He's someone that you can potentially bring on just to try and change things up a little bit. Cho Gusung is sort of the spare backup striker that they have. I mean, Hui Jo Hang's not done a great deal. Azabar missed that chance in the first half, but yeah, I mean, fresh legs. I mean, something different's needed, but from both sides, because Uruguay are now seeing more possession, having more of the ball, but they're not doing a great deal with it. It's not as if they're peppering South Korea's goal. It's strong defence at the moment from both teams. But at the minute, it's as if it's sort of not petering out into a 0-0, but you don't know where this goal's going to come from. Neither side have really carved each other open, and I've got nothing wrote down for the second half in terms of chances. Nothing of massive note. So something needs to change if we're going to get I would presume, the one and only goal of this game. I don't think there'll be more than one if we do get one.
Well, something is going to change. We've got, indeed, Hwang Wee-jo, one of 2 out-and-out strikers in the group. He is going to be brought off by Paulo Bento. I think it's going to be a triple change, this. Anyway, coming on, we've got the other striker, Cho Gyu-sung, plays his football at Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors in the Korean League. To see the extent of the other changes, so Na Sang-ho is also going to make his way off. One of the home-based players. Good shift down the right flank, and on in his stead is going to be Lee Kang-in. La Liga fans will know him, the 21-year-old from Mallorca. What can he do in the twilight of this game? We've also seen an exit, I believe, for the one more that we've got as well. Well, I can see that Son Jun-ho of Shandong Taishan has also come on into midfield. They quite see who replaced him.
Jae-sung Lee, number 10, has gone off.
Jae-sung Lee.
Son Jun-ho, number 13, is off.
So that's it. So
I can't remember saying Jae-sung Lee at all in terms of play when he was on.
No, there was very little that he did in the centre of the park. But South Korea are coming forward again. That probably is why Paulo Bento has opted to have a throw of the dice 15 minutes from time. Here's Son in the box, left-hand side. Plenty of defenders in the way. Gets the cross in. It's cleared by Bentancur. It's going to be a follow-up chance, and flying into the challenge goes Fede Valverde. Fede Valverde comes off the better of that. As Hwang In-boom left holding the end of his boot, and there might have been a question of offside against Kyung-min Son on the left-hand side there as he came up against a heavy Uruguayan defence. It came to nothing in the end. 15 minutes to go, Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
I mean, it's the rare opportunities that Son has had to have a go with Martin Cáceres, who has been on a yellow card in the second half, and they've still not tried to target him. I think Uruguay have done a good job of seeing more possession and keeping it away, but when Son got that opportunity there, it was just a little step over. He reduced it to a standstill when he had the ball, and then quickly used the acceleration he has, gets the cross in, and just unfortunately didn't find anyone. But they need to do that more. They need to look at their matchups, I think, better to South Korea, and they need to try and get the ball to Son. But get it to him in positions where he's got a chance actually to turn and have a go at his man. When he's got a lot of possession in this game, he's had his back towards the goal or he's been swarmed straight away.
We've got another 2 changes coming for Uruguay. Nicolas de la Cruz of River Plate, midfielder, and defender Matías Viña, Roma, set to come on. It's the joy of international football. A whole new set of names to learn as we edge into the final acts of this game. The throw into behind. Kim Jin-soo will take it left-hand side for South Korea. Thrown towards the edge of the penalty area. Comes up towards Hyungmin Song. Can't find his way through. Hat's clear by Uruguay. Now it's South Koreans who look more confident. Fizzing that ball forward with Jung. Headed clear by Cáceres. Taken down by Jung again in the centre circle and thumped forward by Kim Moon Hwan. To come to anything though, there's a brief bit ahead. Tennis, the Koreans take it under control once again. Now they're coming forward and the shot from distance. Well, that's the closest we've come to the target in a long time. And it was Cho Kyu-sung, the substitute, who had the shot. Turned well on the edge of the penalty area. Fired a few yards wide of the post though. Never really going to trouble Sergio Rocher. Played 77 minutes. It's Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Yeah, at least we've had a shot because we've not had one in quite a long time actually in terms of any sort of threat. And it wasn't bad. He snatched at it a little bit there, did Cho Kyu-sung, and he had to go for it really. The ball bounced nicely for him. It was a good sort of 20-25 yards out, but there was no one around him to pass the ball to. And yeah, I'm sure you could have seen his name up in lights there. We're just rifling that one in, but not bad. But we just need more than that. I don't know whether South Korea's desire too much is to try and press out. I think, again, before the game, they probably would have taken a 0-0, probably would have taken a point. I think more the onus is on Uruguay to come and get this victory. Whether they can do it, I'm not too sure. At the minute, it just feels like it is going towards a 0-0, but you'd feel there could be one big chance coming.
Well, we've got a change in the offing. In fact, 2 changes. Besides Oliveira and Matias Vecino are going to be coming off. So we have another Matías Viña going into the defence. Joining the midfield will be Nicolas de la Cruz. Plays his football in Argentina. 17 caps to his name. His 18 might just be his most important. Let's see how this one pans out over the next 11.5 minutes plus whatever the French referee deems necessary to add on at the end of this thriller that myself and James have been calling. We've been blessed with some great games at the World Cup, and for the neutrals this hasn't been a great one, but for those with a horse in the race, the importance of the next 12 minutes cannot be understated. We've got one of the favourites, or perhaps not one of the leading lights, but certainly a team that you would not be surprised to see in the Final Four in your group. Any point you can get going into that game, well, that will be a massive bonus. It's Uruguay who face them next. South Korea have that treat further down the line on the final day of the group stage. Hopefully not for them on their tournament, but it may well be a start with a point apiece. Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. 80th minute as the Koreans come forward into the centre circle. No room to go through so far, so Kim Young-won edges that ball forward to Jung, who sees Cavani over his shoulder. Again, another name we haven't said too much since he came on. Chipped down the line, something for Cho to chase. Cho trying to get after it. Well, Godin's gone down and pretty confident he was going to get the free kick because he's clutching the ball like a rugby union player. Referee, probably Frenchman, I guess, maybe perhaps that's thinking on the same hymn sheet, has seen him go for the try line and thought, well, yes, I think that has to be a free kick, and has turned it round for just that. So 10 minutes to go. Uruguay 0, South Korea 0. As the long ball is floated forward by the Latin American unit, floated forward far too far. Will be history to get onto the end of it. That's an easy take for Kim Sung-gyu to the left of his goal. He will drop the ball down lush green turf at the Education City Stadium. Garish yellow string, he drops the ball out short, receives it back and pings it around his own penalty area. There's no press from Uruguay. And the thought seems to be, what will South Korea do further up the field? There's no need to press him in the defensive third. Sure enough, as it comes further up, Uruguay have won it back. Surely a handball against Edison Cavani. It's gone missed by the referee. 30 yards out, moves it into the penalty area. Nunez now on the right foot. Oh, that would have been a great goal. And he's bent it round the post. Well, he had plenty of whip and zip on that one. just not quite enough to bring it back inside the upright of Kim Sung-gyu. He wrapped his right boot around it, and Edinson Cavani was not far away from giving that the knock it needed to bring it back on target. Either way, it's going to be a dead ball to South Korea. 9 minutes to go. It's 0-0.
Yeah, and again, it's not bad for Uruguay. It's a bit of not a sighter, but edge of the area just doesn't get the bend on it. But I think South Korea will still be happy that they're limiting Uruguay to shots from outside the box. Whether that would have stood anyway if it went in, because it did look like Edinson Cavani had controlled it with his thigh, but then it popped up and it hit his hand, and that gave an advantage, allowed Uruguay to continue the attack. But another issue here is it for South Korea, with the player down on the floor. The shots we've got just pan to the fans in the stadium now, but there's a few players I've seen actually just stretching themselves out. Facundo Pelistri did it for Uruguay, maybe just feeling the effects, a little bit of cramp, which you wouldn't expect cramp really, but I suppose the hot conditions, I thought the fact that they're already in the season, most of the top European leagues, and they're taking the break now for the World Cup, and I thought that would have led to players being in tip-top condition, well, the injured ones of course, but then you're straight into it, whereas when you get to a summer tournament you have that break between the end of the season, the start of the World Cup or the Euros, and it's just getting the players back up to speed with everything. I thought it would have been a lot easier for them just to roll into this tournament.
Well, it is played with more intensity, isn't it, really, when we think about it? Of course, it does make sense that, like you say, in the middle of a domestic season for most of the European and most of the major world leagues, the players be in tip-top shape, but then they're probably not expected. It's as if they're going to be playing a Premier League game Monday, Thursday, following Sunday. It just doesn't happen that way, and I think tournament football is always a little bit more intense, isn't it? Plus, more substitutes, added game time, you're training probably at a higher intensity too. The climate is something to take into consideration, and so you look at, say, somebody like Facundo Pelistri, only 20 years of age, you think you shouldn't grab him yet, but then you're surprised that the tension as well is probably far higher than right on a busy week, like Tuesday, Saturday, if you play in a European league. But this is something none of the players are used to, and also it's almost as if we've had 18 months of a season with such a short break over the summer. Uruguay coming forward though, 6.5 minutes to go. Darwin Núñez now on the right, cuts inside the defender, left edge of the penalty, right corner of the penalty area, tries on the left foot, it goes too far down the line to be mopped up by Bentancur. An apology from Núñez to his teammate. That's out for a dead ball. Uruguay still getting into the good regions of the pitch, running out of time to exploit them though. Coming up to the 84-minute mark, agony written all over the Liverpool man's face. It's still 0-0 between the Albi Celeste and the Taegeuk Warriors. Goal kick, Kim Sung-gyu. Not far from what he calls his home, plays his football at Al Shabab, Saudi Arabia, to try and channel of his adoptive nation. One of the shocks of the World Cup so far against the Latin American team, favoured teams to do well in this tournament. South Korea coming into this match as the underdogs, not quite by the same gulf as Saudi Arabia were in theirs, but there's time remaining still for this to go either way. Uruguay have a throw-in halfway inside their own half. It's Martin Cáceres who, to all our predictions, mine and James's, seems to be moving rather fine at his elderly age, coming into the last few minutes of this game. He's managed it 35 years after 115 caps behind him. Not long finished his MLS season with LA Galaxy. He's holding up under the pressure. South Korea's star man really, I think, to not offer any disrespect, but Kyung-min Son head and shoulders above the rest in terms of quality, and he's been marked out of the game. It's certainly given a bit of a let-up for some of the Uruguayan defenders. There's still a few minutes remaining though, 86th minute of the game. South Korea have it at the back. Chance to edge forward into Uruguayan territory, which they do only for a second, then it's run back. More forward by Bentancur, in towards Cavani. Has Núñez on the overlap. What can you do with it? A sea of red shirts around him, and he admits defeat and goes back towards halfway. Probably the sage option because he's found Cáceres. Out to Pelistri, near side the Uruguay right. Again, too many red shirts in the way. Forced to go back inside his own half. When I would say that this has looked like an iron cast 0-0 for quite a long time. This could yet change. If it does, it has to do so in the next few minutes, because barring substitutions, we haven't really had any long injury layoffs, we haven't had any stoppages, we haven't had any goals to speak of. I can't imagine, even at this World Cup, there's going to be an inflated number on the fourth official's scoreboard when he puts it up in a few minutes' time.
No, I mean, 1 minute at the end of the first. Like I said, there'd probably be 3 maybe at the minute with how things have gone. There was a little bit of treatment, wasn't there, for one of the Korean players? Maybe you might get 4 or 5 at max, I would say. But it's been a little bit of a disappointment the second half. I thought the first 45 was good, and again, there's 2 more Uruguayan players there who have just sort of stretched themselves out a little bit. Federico Valverde's been one of them. The Real Madrid man, you wouldn't expect that. Seeing who the other one was, I think it was Jose Jimenez, who's stretching the legs out as well. And I don't know, maybe the heat is more than having more of an effect than we think it is.
Uruguay still pressing forward. Good luck, lads. You've still got at least 2 games to go. Then a crew 35 yards out in a central berth, moves it to the right-hand side. Bentancur, left foot across. Could this be the one? Cavani gets his head on it towards the back post. It's already, I think, overrun the end of the field before his teammate Bina tried to keep it alive. It was a gallant effort anyway. A good ball by Bentancur, swirling towards the back post. The Koreans swarmed around it, but Cavani rose head and shoulders above the rest. Could only flick it beyond the far edge of the goal, and it was well left by Kim Seung-gyu. So 2.5 minutes to go. A dead ball as another change is made by the Uruguayans. And we'll see Facundo Pellistri play no further part. The Manchester United man off. And coming into the action, we'll see Guillermo Varela plays his club football for Flamengo. So interestingly, an attack-minded player on one with a more defensive mindset in the opening 2 minutes. Is this Uruguay downing tools and opting to go for the point, or is this maybe just a change of shape?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out there really for them. Whether it is just maybe not the options to bring on to replace Pellistri, but I mean, they do have options on the bench if we wanted to. But yeah, maybe it's just trying to not give anything away. As Cho Kyusung goes in the book for South Korea, just for maybe backing into the man with the elbow.
To show Kyusung indeed picks up a yellow card, first Korean man to do so last time. Mistaken, it's been 1 apiece now in this second half. 90 seconds of it remaining, at least in normal time. The Koreans come forward, and this might be a chance. Here's Cho. He's got Son. He's barged down off the ball. Referee must have seen it. It's happy to play to carry on. Heung-min Son was looking at the ball, looking back over his shoulder. He collided with Martin Cáceres, bundling straight over. There was no attempt to, of course, not play the ball. The ball was 20 yards away. Referee happy to go on. Son, to his credit, hasn't complained a great deal. And now Uruguay coming forward. Now with a long too far way out. Oh, smashed off the goalkeeper. And just as I put my teeth back in, Fede Valverde tried to get the ball out of his feet. I wanted to say Facundo Pellistri, the Manchester United man's gone off. The Real Madrid man, well, he hit that thunderously from distance. I want to see the replay again to see just how much credit we can give the goalkeeper and how much to give to this Qatari steelwork. And it's all the upright there that's taking it away from goal. Well, Valverde thought, right, I've got a few red shirts in between me and Edison Cavani. I'm going to have a go myself. Goalkeeper at full stretch, couldn't reach it. It cannons back off the frame of the goal. There's agony in the stands, there's disappointment on the field, and not even a corner to show for it. It remains the final minute of normal time. Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it's going to take something special to break the deadlock, and it was nearly there from Valverde. It was a really good rasping hit by him, and the keeper whom he's beaten is Kim Seung-gyu. He's just hoping.
Oh, it's giving away, and Heung-min Son on the edge of the penalty area. Can he beat the goalkeeper? He pisses it round the post. And Sergio Rocher, now his turn to be at full stretch. Maybe just about had it covered. Heung-min Son took a moment to get it out of his feet, fired it towards the goalkeeper's bottom left-hand post, but it all came out from some horrendous distribution from Rocher. It was fired past the post only by a few inches or so. Heung-min Son, actually looking back at it from the reverse angle, it's a bit further wide than first thought, but I think it still just goes to show that these two sides can turn it on when they want to, and they've got more time to do so. 7 added minutes. Uruguay come forward again. Is this the excitement we've been waiting for? We've had 30 seconds of the added time already. It's still goalless in this Group H opener. Both sides still have to play Portugal, one of the front runners for the tournament. The Ghana side that certainly know how to cause an upset on their day, at least historically. Here's De La Cruz, 35 yards out. Cavani rolls it on into the path of Nunez, still 20 yards out, beyond the fringes of the attacking penalty area, coming out to the right-hand side. Might there be a way through? Barella trying to twist his way into a crossing position. He finds himself blocked off. He will win a throw-in. 6 to go. There's a nervous-looking Tagut Warriors fans clapping their team on. They've got defending to do at the moment. Forward, Bentancur will come. Fizzes it through the middle. De La Cruz into the penalty area, cuts it back. Cavani was there. Well dealt with by the Koreans. This one's bouncing away from danger. Now can they get away with Lee Kang-in? First real chance for the Mallorca player to show his might. And Fede Valverde comes careering across and in a Spartan roar puts the ball out with a well-timed tackle. He had to get that right. He flew in and he's actually a little bit high there. I think some referees might interpret that a little bit differently, and Lee Kang-in perhaps, but he celebrated as if he bagged the winner, as if his thunderbolt effort a few minutes ago had in fact crept inside the post. It was that kind of challenge, and it remains Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Yeah, I'm not fully understanding of that kind of celebration reaction from him. If your team was 1-0 up and you just done that, that great challenge, then fine. Celebrating it when it's 0-0, I'm not sure. I don't know whether he's just trying to gee up the crowd or... Yeah, strange one for me, that from Valverde, and none of his teammates seem to react to it either.
Seemingly he was the only one on the plane watching Braveheart. I don't know what the rest of them were watching, but he really felt that one. Either way, 4.5 minutes to go. I'm thinking back to a certain Alan Pardew in the FA Cup final. That could possibly come back to bite him, that raucous celebration, if the side don't see out this point they currently hold. We've had almost 93 minutes played. Still goalless. Korea with Jung playing through the middle. Now played down the right-hand side. Might be a chance for Cho to chase. Cho's got there ahead of Godin, puts it into the penalty area. Caceres got there first. Still danger on the right-hand side. Kim Moon Kwan cuts it inside. Might there be a way through for the Koreans? Finally, after 93 minutes of play, it's played along to Hwan In-beom. Shoots! Puts it wide. I think he knows he should have done better. Fired that shot from 30 yards out, and it looked further and further away from the target with every millisecond that passed. It remains quite believably after shots like that. After 93.5 minutes, Uruguay 0, South Korea 0.
Just needed the first touch to be better to get it out with his feet. He takes the touch, but he's got to have another couple before he gets the shot away, and he's been closed down by then, and he just slices it, really, just throws his left foot at it, and it doesn't quite work for him. But yeah, it's South Korea, I don't know, they kind of stopped playing a little bit, but so if Uruguay in the second